Listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com. Air supply, you know what the heck? You know, 10:35 is the time on this 22nd day of September. Taralei, I'm fried today. Not in that way. Well,
right?
I didn't even think of the tie-in. Not like that. I'm just tired. Taralei,
right.
what are we talking about today? I haven't seen you in a month. How's things been?
Well,
How's
it's
Scotland?
actually been a couple months,
Oh,
yeah,
has it?
because it was, I think it was like end of June, right? Because then it was like the 4th of July that I flew out to Scotland.
Oh, that's right. How was your trip?
It was amazing. Scotland is beautiful. And I love it very much. Anyway, it was the best vacation of my life. I loved it.
Well, that's really good.
it was
I
great.
saw the pictures, and it is beautiful. See, I haven't been to Scotland yet. I think that's the next stop on the bucket list.
Oh, you
right
gotta
there.
go.
There you go.
Edinburgh was beautiful.
See, I've always wanted to go there too. But was my thought right? Did they shoot part of Harry Potter in that little courtyard? Did we talk about that? Remember,
I don't know,
we didn't know.
but I mean, there were a lot of spots where
That's
I
right,
was
yeah.
like, yeah, this is Harry Potter related. There was even a street I was walking down with like some people that I met at a hostel.
What's
and
that?
The hostel where I stayed. So
Is it a hotel? I've never understood
so
that.
a hostel it's like a cheaper, more affordable version of it, but it's like it's basically like a dorm.
Oh, gotcha.
So, I had a the one I stayed at in Edinburgh was prison themed, so it was actually in an old jail and courthouse there in Edinburgh, and they kept that theme. So like the rooms were called sleep cells, and there were bars like on doors as decoration and stuff, and it was all jail themed.
That's cool.
And like it sounded weird, but it was actually pretty cool.
That does sound pretty cool.
And so we all had like our little pods in the room with like a curtain you could draw in, like, so it was nice, so you're in a room with a bunch of other people. You need some earplugs to sleep, especially because, so you can usually with a hostel choose like a, you can do like a female only dorm. I was like, I'll be fine. I chose the co-ed dorm because it was a little cheaper. But then, so I was the first one to check into my room. And then as I'm there, like unpacking, all of a sudden it was like all these dudes just started filing in. And I was like, I was the only woman in my dorm the first night that I stayed in the hostel. And I was like, and it was... I needed my headphones. And
I was going to ask you. I just
wish I'd had some air freshener too, but that was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was great. It was, and it's like, it's a good kind of community thing. So like met a bunch of people there. Anyway, yeah. So some of the people I was hanging out with, we were walking down this one street. I'm not even going to remember what it was called now, but they were like, oh yeah, this is what, Diagon Alley was based off of, and I was like, that's so cool. So yeah, everywhere you went there was like little spots that everyone was like, oh yeah, this was where Harry Potter was filmed, or this was what it was based off of, or so it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Hey, by the way, guess this? I think I did it for the first time since you started coming on the show. Spelt it right. I didn't hit the button.
I was like,
spelt it right.
You did.
Thank you. Now what are we talking about cannabis-wise today?
All right. Well, I thought because cannabis has been in the news a lot lately, I thought we'd talk about that, about all the laws and like legislation going on. Yeah.
I'm here for it. Educate me.
Yeah. All right. Well, so probably the biggest thing that most people have heard something about at this point is that the HHS actually made a recommendation to reschedule cannabis.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah, I've got all my notes again.
Oh, there you go.
I've been doing my research all morning to make sure I knew. But,
this is kind of different. I wouldn't expect that, honestly, because there's been so many developments on this. Do you have any explanation? What's the reason they're given?
Well, so I'll kind of go back to last year a little bit. So on October 6th last year, President Biden actually he initiated a cannabis scheduling review. So he asked the DEA to help figure out, just start reviewing it and see if they thought it should be changed schedules. Because right now, cannabis is a Schedule 1, which I know I've talked about this before, but
it's in the same
Schedule
category
1
as heroin.
Yes, yeah. So Schedule 1 substances, there are 5 levels of scheduling. Schedule 1 means that there is a high potential for abuse and there is no no medical benefit. Schedule 2 is also high potential for abuse, but maybe like potential medical benefits, but like cocaine is on Schedule 2. It's and then so anyway,
I'm not making the joke that I could make right now about what was found at the White House. Just keep going.
And then like there's Schedule 3, which is like Tylenol with codeine, so it's more medicinal benefit. And then you get down to Schedule 5, which is like Robitussin. But anyway, so he initiated this review, and so it's been almost a year. But so finally, at the end of August, the Department of Health and Human Services, or the HHS, officially recommended that cannabis be moved from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under federal law.
Now that's interesting. Okay, so I was a little confused at first. I thought they were keeping it at Schedule 1, and I'm like, whoa, that's a little bit of a step backwards here.
Right. So they initiated this review to see where they would reschedule it to.
Gotcha.
They recommended, so this isn't actually, we don't even know if this will actually happen.
Right.
But they recommended that it be rescheduled to Schedule 3. So that would potentially open up a lot more doors for like medical research and everything. Personally, it does not do enough.
Okay.
It needs to be descheduled, in my opinion.
Okay.
And that's the opinion of a lot of cannabis activists out there as well. Because it still has so many regulations in place, getting funding for research, while there would be more available and less potential legal issues. It's still going to be very difficult. It's still going to be heavily regulated. It's still going to be to the point where it does not need to be, especially with the fact that we know the medical benefits, like we need to be doing more research, but we know that it is beneficial. We know that it's not anywhere near as dangerous as any of the other drugs on these lists.
And I mean, I feel like, that's a good argument, but also too, there on the other side of that coin, the argument would be, well, we don't know the long-term effects of some of this as well, correct? We really don't.
Yeah. There's a lot we don't know about some of the long-term effects, but
it's just a thought, because I get what you're saying. It's just, I don't know. I'm a little indifferent. I think that everything should be descheduled because, in my opinion, is, I'm a little bit different of a thinker.
Right.
But, and I think that a lot of this really, it causes a stigmatization that doesn't need to be there.
Right.
And it's a choice.
Right.
That's just me.
That's a big part of it. Like let me see here. I'm looking for my little notes. So,
no, you're fine. I think this is so fascinating that it takes this long. And why is that? I mean, Colorado legalizes, 10 years ago, 12 years ago?
I mean, it's really just because of the federal...
is that all it is?
Yeah, that's really what it's, what was the last state? So Minnesota just legalized. So like now we're at, we've got... Is it 35 states, I believe now, that have some form of, and that's, that's enough for that's 75%. That's enough. Like if those states that are legal, if they got together, they could pass a constitutional amendment, that's, so there are so many like options now and reasons why it should just be legalized, like things that you could,
I agree.
Yeah. But, okay. But so what this means, so the recommendation from the HHS is non-binding. It's not going to change anything. It's just a recommendation. So now what's going to have to happen is that using separate evidence, they make it so complicated. You got to go through all these processes, but now the DEA will have to do their own research and start another process and to reevaluate whether it should actually be rescheduled or not. So the DEA, I guess, is...
taking even longer and more tax dollars to do this.
Right.
Because it should be descheduled. I mean, I'm right there with you.
Oh, right. Yeah, it should be. But so even if it is, so if it is rescheduled to Schedule 3, part of the thing that would be good for it is it would open up funding. It would also potentially result in good tax and banking reform, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more because that's one of the actual legislation that's been in office recently, or in the courthouse recently. But I did not say that right at all. It's fine.
It's all good.
I'm still waking up. But yeah, but the thing that I think is most important to realize is that this would not change anything as far as legality. It wouldn't change anything as far as legality. It would not change anything for people in prison, the people who are still getting criminal charges from this. Yeah. So like it would still be the same level of charges for anyone arrested for just possessing cannabis even. So it wouldn't change anything about that if we reschedule it. The only thing it would change would potentially be banking for the actual dispensaries for the companies and potentially more funding for research and
so
availability for that.
It doesn't have anything to do with like any federal laws or anything, no, unless... just as far as like the funding and but it's still going to be illegal. It's still going to be something that if you're caught in possession, it's not going to change any of that. So baby steps.
Well, so anyway, so then actually this past week there was quite a lot actually in Congress about. So we had the. Let me see. So there was the Cure Act had a meeting on Wednesday, which is it's just a piece of legislation that would prevent people from being denied federal employment or security clearances solely due to cannabis use, and allows those who have faced this kind of discrimination in the past to appeal their cases. So this is particularly important because if you remember, like when Biden first took office, there was a big uproar because like one of the first things that happened was he immediately fired like a lot of staffers who had just admitted to past cannabis use. Yeah. They weren't caught with it. They weren't. Right. And so like this would prevent that sort of thing from happening, which is important. Like, especially if you're not actively using it, but even if you are, if you admit in your job interview or, that, I've used it in the past, that shouldn't affect you, especially if you're not using it at work in a way that impedes, like it shouldn't affect your...
Yeah, I get you. Well, it's just like, to me, I think the argument could be made with alcohol too, if you're a drunk showing up to work.
Like, Right. No, of course.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're right. I get what you're saying because it's like, would you ask the guy, hey, when's the last time you drank, and all that?
Right. Like, I threw a couple back on the weekend and then you just don't get the job because of that. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah. So that actually did, and so I did double check on that, and that did get pushed forward. So that will be being voted on. And then there's also the Safe Banking Act, which has been talked about a lot recently. And so that actually is an act specifically about the banking for dispensaries because things are federally illegal. The way that the states are handling this when they're legalizing it is that's why dispensaries are cash only, because they can't get bank accounts because they're still federally illegal.
Well, what's funny though is that in Collinsville it's not cash only. I paid with debit card for a while.
Right, but so that's still cash.
Oh,
that's so like when I used to work at Ascend, and it's a cashless ATM, and so it's still, and so that's like some people, like my debit card, my bank doesn't work that way.
Really,
I can't use my debit card at the dispensary because it stops it. So,
really,
yeah,
that's interesting.
That's like really some people's banks. Yeah, well, like they can use their debit card at different dispensaries, but for the most part, you usually have to have cash.
I didn't know that. That's actually really cool.
No, so it's not ever. That's why you have to put it in. That's why there's an extra fee because it's a cashless ATM.
Yeah,
so you're still technically using cash. It's not. And that's.
I feel like I've been cheated.
Right. But and that's why you're having to use a debit card instead of a credit card.
Makes sense.
It's all, so they're cash only businesses. But so this this act has been talked about a lot the past several years. But so now I guess it's just been held back by people who didn't want to pass it through. But it's been rebranded now, and it's looking like it's probably going to pass this session.
Really?
Hopefully. So we'll see. But so it used to be the Safe Banking Act, which was, sorry, hold on. I kept meaning to
it's all good.
do more research on this, and then I just like screenshotted a lot of geez Louise. Anyway, okay, the Safe Banking Act. Anyway, so it's been rebranded to the Safer Banking Act. So now it's really, that's literally what they did.
I feel a lot safer.
They just added the R onto the end. So now it's I can't remember what SAFE stands for, but now it's regulation at the end of it. So they've added, to make them feel a little safer about them. Okay, there's more regulations on this. Anyway, so that's looking promising, especially now with all these changes. It looks like this is going to pass through. It's usually stopped at the Senate, but now it's kind of...
That's interesting.
On it. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Has it been stopped at the Senate this session before?
Yeah, it was in May, and so that was
not to cut you off, but that's really fascinating to me because the Senate's Democrat majority, and you would think they're the progressives that are going to say, yeah, let's go ahead and keep pushing this through and let's move forward.
Yeah, you would think so.
Wow. How about that, huh? Well, there you go. Taralei with a little smile on her face.
I have so many thoughts and opinions.
Well, and with that being said, so you see all this, and it's really just, even though it's not changing the game tomorrow, does it build to that kind of longer haul of getting this descheduled game?
Right. I think so.
Okay.
I don't know about descheduling. I think it's going to depend on a lot. Like that would be the ideal for me.
Right.
That would be like where I think we should be going. And I think a lot of people think we should be going.
Yeah.
But do I think our current government system wants to do that in any form? No.
Interesting.
No, I think, they want to regulate this. They want to keep it regulated. They're seeing how much money it's bringing in tax-wise and everything. And so even if it's
I'm fine with
legalized at some point at some place on the federal level, they're going to keep so many regulations in place that are going to kind of still keep it restricted, keep it very inaccessible for people who are poor. Like right now in Illinois, that's part of why we still have such a large black market is because the taxes are set so high here compared to other states.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and that's, like a lot of the different, it's been a couple years now, but I know one of the cannabis legalization acts that was like presented a couple years ago, one of the big things that had people in an uproar was the tax and the way they had it set, because it was like going to be a graduate, like growing every year. Mm-hmm. So they were going to be adding to the tax every year for like 5 years. And it was like, why would you be doing that? That's just going to continually prohibit more and more people from being able to purchase it legally and safely.
Right. Now, do you think there's a balance though between regulating and making an accessibility? Because I feel like you got to have some testing and making sure that you aren't doing
of course, of course. Yeah, we should definitely be testing it. You got to be sure there's no I just mean
I get what you're saying now because I from a money standpoint, you're right.
I don't mean we should just be doing this everyone growing it.
Yeah.
I just mean there's a lot to do. Like we got to be thinking there's so much, so many of the regulations in place, and even if things are changed, it's still kind of based around this fear of cannabis, I feel like.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel like at this point we know
for sure.
We should definitely be cautious. We should definitely still do research, find out long-term effects and everything, but
those regulations harm the research.
Right. Those regulations harm the research. They also, and it's a medicine for people, like a lot of people use it for fun. It's also a medicine, and a lot of the people who need it most just can't access it, unless they go to the black market, because that's where it's more affordable. And,
is Illinois one of the highest taxed And
Yes.
that's what I was wondering,
Yes,
because
yeah.
it is astronomical. I mean,
Yeah. It's, and I don't know about you, but I personally haven't seen a whole lot of the taxes going to
you and
they
about
should.
tens of millions of people.
What is it going towards?
Thank you. It's been my question the entire time, because you look and they might tell you, oh no, we're adding to the infrastructure. Well, you say you have all these plans, but nothing's actually being built,
Right.
And you can make the argument, not to cut you up, but you make the argument all you want that, oh, this money's going to go to building back our infrastructure and our roads and everything else. Well, it's been 3 years now, and you're bragging about how a quarter you're bringing in, $400 million in taxes. But, the ones that get it are either Cook County, we don't see a dime of it, or, it's just not getting used. So I'm right there. That's an argument I'll have every day of the week with somebody.
Oh, yeah. No.
I have no use for how it's being spent.
And, I've talked about this before, and it's, that was my focus when I did my final project at SLU, but is the environmental effects.
Yeah.
All these regulations are actually harming the environment. Cannabis is so good for the planet. It's not only a medicine for people. Like, that's something that I feel like we need to be talking about more as we go through the legalization process, is that it's a medicine not only for people but for the planet. The climate crisis is getting scary, and we gotta, that's something I feel like we need to be thinking about, is the fact that the way these regulations are with, in states like Illinois, where you have to grow inside, that adds to harming the environment, where not being able to all the regulations for packaging, you have to have all this information laid out on the label instead of using a QR code or something, that just makes the packaging have to be so much bigger than the products. And then there's so much more waste in the environment, and growing it inside, it uses so much water. If you grow it outside, it's a lot healthier for the planet. Anyway, there's just so many things.
Well, now I get what you're saying. Because if you're growing it inside, you got all that stuff that's just like a factory. You're putting it up into the air, and then you're infecting the car. And there's so many things to talk about. But people have the argument
so many
of
factors.
They'll say, well, why are you worrying here when you got foreign countries and all that are producing smog left and right? Well, the reason being, I think the argument is simple. If you start making sure you're taking care of this and tackling it, then you can really say, listen, we're taking care of our side of things, you got to take care of yours, and if you don't, then there's different avenues you can take. But you're right. I mean, I just don't understand all this ridiculous BS about this industry, because it's I get the first couple of years of being kind of wishy-washy with it. What are you gonna do?
Right.
But when it's the same tune, every 4 years we get this same line of we're gonna do this with cannabis, we're gonna do this. Well, then you're like you said, the money's not being spent. They go, it's going for our education system. Where? I haven't seen it. Like you said, where's it going? And there's questions, and good questions.
And not to mention, going back to the legal stuff, the fact that even rescheduling it won't change stuff for the legal criminal aspect. That's one of the things. There's still people in prison, even in all these different legal states, just for possessing a joint. And they're serving frickin' 15 to 20 years for a joint in their pocket that they weren't even high on at the time. It's...
You're right. I mean,
that shouldn't be allowed, especially when it is now able for so many people to...
Well...
how do you think those people sitting in prison who have done nothing violent, nothing, and they just got arrested for having some weed on them. And now they're seeing all these people lining up at these dispensaries, and nothing's happening to them. Anyway, so there's so many factors that go into it, and
you're right.
Yeah, it's all interesting. It's a lot. This was kind of all over the place today.
Absolutely. It's all good. Hey, we gotta go. I'll see you back here on Monday. So on that note, have a great weekend and just try your best to stay out of jail.
He said it would.